Welcome in, y'all. Week 2 NFL picks with Week 1 now in the rear view mirror. And we start with this phenomenal Thursday night game between the Commanders and the Packers. Couldn't ask for a better start on the TNF slate. But first, let's take a quick peek at how we did this past week on the picks. I went 10-6 against the spread, so that's good. 11-5 straight up like that as well, and my best picks were 3-1. And it says best pick there. My favorite pick was that I did go with Indy -1.5. I was low on the Dolphins all offseason, a little high on the Colts, so I'm glad to see that pay off. But now, heading into that Thursday night game, it's going to be a great game, and this game's really exciting because these are two potential NFC contenders. They look like contenders, and this is kind of a benchmark game. It's early in the year, so a lot can change, between now and the playoffs, but it's a great benchmark, If one team comes in and just absolutely demolishes the other, which I really do not see happening, but it'd be like, oh, okay, not only does this one now seem like a major contender, the other seems a bit like a fraud. So we will see. Games like this are awesome, but I expect it to be close throughout. The Packers are favored by 3.5. That's a lot of confidence in them. But I can't say I necessarily disagree. The Packers looked great. They dominated the Lions. And Washington looked fine. They looked good. I can't say they dominated the Giants. But they played well. They got the win against the bad team, and that's what you're supposed to do. But in this one, I think it's going to stay close. And I have this score here, so I'm going to stick with it. Can't be changing. But I have 31-26. I do like the Packers to win and cover. But I do think it's going to be a bit lower scoring than that. The Packers tend to slow down games a lot of times, especially once they get the lead. They like to run the ball, run the clock. Washington has a very high-powered offense, so maybe the score does get up here, but we'll see. But yeah, so it should be a great Thursday game. Can't wait for that one. Moving on to the Sunday games, we have Rams at Titans, and this is actually out of date. The line is 5.5 now for the Rams, not 6.5, so trending in favor of the Titans there. And the Titans looked good in Week 1. The offense was a little rough. Saw some flashes, saw some drops, but yeah, the offense was whatever. The defense was very impressive. They gave Denver some fits. Denver did ultimately win the game, but Tennessee could hold their own there on defense. I don't think the Titans are going to be a great team. It didn't change my mind on that. I still think they're, bottom 4, bottom 5 team in the league. And the Rams, I thought, played pretty well last week, especially on defense. So final score here, give me the Rams win this one 24-16. I think the talent gap is bigger than an 8-point score here, but the Rams do tend to play close games. Even when they were winning a lot these last couple years, you don't often see them necessarily blowing people out, even some of the worst teams. So I think 24-16 feels right, but I think this is a game the Rams are in control the entire time. I really liked what I saw from them last week. Now, this one, these two teams, it's kind of opposite stories. The Jets played amazing. They were ahead the whole game, kind of controlled it, and they had a late mistake, and it cost them in the end. They just lose. And then the Bills, the flip side, they were kind of not dominated, but their defense was dominated by the Ravens all game long, and it looked pretty grim for them pretty late in the game. But they flipped the game on its head late and got that win. So it's funny, if you were to check these games heading into the fourth quarter, you'd think the Bills would be 0-1, the Jets would be 1-0. But that is not the case. So this is going to be a great one there. Bills favored by a full 6.5, and you know what? I think last I checked, it is at 7. So we're rocking with 7 is the total we're going to base off of here. And the Bills are great. I think I had them number 1 in my power rankings, and I think they might be the best team in the league. But the Jets, man, they looked really, really good this past week. The defense could use some work, but you know what? At the same time, you got to give credit to Rodgers, because the Jets were getting pressure. They were getting to Rodgers. They were getting some sacks. They were getting a lot of pressure. They were slowing down the run game. It wasn't doing that much on them, and Rodgers still carved them up a little bit. But I think the Jets defense is going to be okay, and the offense looked great. So I like the Jets in this one to cover the spread. I like the Bills to win, but I think the Jets keep it close. I'd be surprised if they got blown out. We'll see. Week 1 lies. Maybe the Jets come back down to earth and they score 6 points like we know the Jets often do. But moving on now, Jags, Bengals. This is 1-0 teams. The Bengals didn't look great getting there, the 17-16 win over the Browns. The Jags looked pretty solid getting there. The offense didn't show many flashes, but the defense looked solid. They really shut down the Panthers. And this is one I had some trouble with. The Bengals are favored by a full 3.5 here, and it does look like it's still at that number. But man, I've gone back and forth on it because the Bengals start season slow, which they did against the Browns. So I'm not raising alarm bells at how lackluster they looked there. The Jags looked great. Could the Jags come in to Cincinnati here and win this game outright? Absolutely, without a doubt. And you know what? Even my gut maybe says they're going to at least cover, but for some reason, I just can't find myself taking it. So I do have the Bengals not only winning this game, but narrowly covering that one. I have them winning 28-24, but I think this is going to be a really good game. Will the Bengals continue slow? Usually it does take several weeks for them to get going, so maybe they continue slow again and they lose this one like 20-17, something like that. We'll see, but I still think the Bengals are a great team. And the Jags, I want to see more from them. I want to see more from their offense as well, so we'll see what they got going. Then you have Browns at Ravens. This one is, oof, man. This is asking for a blowout. This one's actually down to 10.5, believe it or not. So that is the number we'll play off of here. But wow, Browns, they choked away the game late, missed a field goal. They had some tipped interceptions. The Ravens, I don't even need to get started on them. We all know what happened in that game. Truly a devastating loss. I think the Ravens come home. I think they have no issue. I know they sometimes have issues in these games against these lesser opponents, especially the Browns, it seems like, in recent years. But I'm not seeing that happen this time. I think the Ravens they're coming home. They're frustrated coming off a loss like that, and I think they handle business. I think they win this one 34-13. Yeah, I mean, not too much else to say there. I think the Ravens are just a much better team. And people might be a little higher on the Browns than they should just because they kept it close against a Bengals team that notoriously starts slow in week 1. But moving on, next we have the Patriots visiting the Dolphins. Wow, 2 0-1 teams here. 2 0-1 teams. The Dolphins, I'm very happy to see this coming around. I was very low on them in the preseason. I think I had them at about 6 wins or so. And they might even get less than that. They looked really rough. However, let's just be clear, they still have a lot of talent out there, so you can't completely write this team off. However, the big knock I have on them is this is a team I don't know that they can rebound. Their locker room is in such shambles. McDaniels has no control of that locker room right now, and when things get bad, I think it might just continue to snowball. So some teams bounce back after tough losses. I don't know that they can. The Patriots, led by Vrabel, I absolutely think they can bounce back in this one. The offense was a little slow in week 1. They only put up 13 points. They let a Raiders team come into their house and beat them. So don't love that, but I still like the Patriots upside here. Give me the Patriots on the road to win this one 27-23. And just double checking for y'all out there. I am surprised to see this, but yes, that is the correct line as of when I'm making this. It is still Dolphins favored by 1.5. So I'll take the Patriots to win and cover there. Then, next up, we move to the 49ers versus the Saints. Saints favored by, I think, just 4.5 in this one now. And a lot of that is due to the Purdy question marks. We're not sure if he's playing. At least I'm not at the time of making this. There's a chance he misses. He has a couple injuries going on. I think it's a shoulder and a toe. But personally, I mean, 4.5 is the number we're going to go off of here. I don't know that it matters. Mac Jones, I think, will be serviceable enough behind a Shanahan-led offense. The Saints are not very good. A lot of people asking why they stayed 32 in the power rankings. And the biggest explanation I have is, first off, on paper, I think this is the worst team in football. Second off, they didn't make any mistakes. Yeah, that's the problem. They weren't turning the ball over. They got a blocked field goal, and they still lost by a full touchdown at home against a middle-of-the-pack Cardinals team. And really, the score could have been wider than 20-13 if we're honest with ourselves. So I still think the Saints are the worst team in football. I think they're going to lose a lot of games. and I think they absolutely lose this one. I'd like the Niners to go in there and win this one 26-16. Not a blowout, especially without Purdy, but even with Purdy, I don't know about a full blowout here. The Niners didn't look strong enough in week 1 to maybe do that, but I think 26-16 sounds about right. A nice 10-point win. It might be close throughout most of the game, but I expect the Niners to kind of trickle away with it at the end. But then we're going to move on to Giants at Cowboys. Cowboys almost got a win on opening night. The Giants kind of hung tough with Washington. I mean, they couldn't finish drives, which was frustrating. But they did a good job at not letting the Commanders finish a lot of drives either. So, we'll see their Giants defense seems all right. Will Jackson Dart get the start? I don't know. Last I heard, I haven't looked into it so far today on making this. But I believe DeBoll was non-committal on Russell Wilson starting in week 2, so that would certainly shake things up here. But I thought the Cowboys looked good, and before the year I was saying the same thing. I don't think they're going to be a super team, but Cowboys are not going to be a doormat this year. They're not, a bottom 5, bottom 8 team. They're right in the middle. They're a solid team. They're home against the team that is kind of in the bottom, the Giants. I think they handle business. I think they win. I think they cover. I have them winning 26-18 in that one there. Then moving on, we have Seattle visiting Pittsburgh. This is a fun one. You have the Steelers coming off whatever that game was against the Jets, where people thought it would be 17-14, and both teams scored over 30, which is incredible. Steelers defense was concerning. The Jets consistently and methodically drove down the field against them. You don't like to see that. But Rodgers looked like himself. Rodgers looked very, very good. I was impressed with him. He looks like Rodgers of old. The O-line, a little questionable. They couldn't necessarily get the run game going either. So, and Rodgers faced a lot of pressure. It's a good Jets front, but still a lot of pressure for Rodgers. Don't love that. But then on the flip side, Seattle, it was not a great game from them. They had plenty of chances to win. San Fran kept making mistakes. It felt like field goals were missed, blocked, turnovers from Purdy, and the Niners still managed to win that game. I wasn't very high on Seattle coming into the year, and I think my position has kind of stayed the same. I don't think I'd drop them down too much after last week. They're kind of right where I thought they were. They're going to be in every game. I don't expect them to be being blown out, but I also don't expect them to be winning a bunch of these games. But in this one, I do like the Steelers. Steelers are favored by 2.5, and I like them to win and cover that at home, 24-20. Give me the Steelers to go 2-0 in the Aaron Rodgers era, something he was not able to do in New York. But then moving on, we have the Lions and the Bears from Detroit. And boy, that was a tough one last night for the Bears. Thought they had that one throughout most of the game, especially after that pick six. It felt like that was kind of it, but there was a lot of time left, and I kept finding myself thinking it was over, but it kept being like there's a lot of time on that clock, and the Vikings certainly made the most of it. The Bears offense just absolutely stalled out in the second half. But let's remember, the Vikings, I picked the Bears in that one, but I had the Vikings higher in the power rankings, and for a good reason. Coming into the season, people were forgetting how talented that Vikings roster is. But, I won't talk too much on that. We'll get to that with the Vikings. The Bears, first half was decent. Second half was rough. I'm not sure how I feel about the Ben Johnson era so far. I think there's still a lot of positives that can come, but we'll see. Detroit looked a mess. They looked a mess. Everyone was saying they would without the coordinators. I didn't think it'd be that bad, so we'll see. They desperately need this rebound win at home. I think this game is more important to the Lions than it is the Bears. The Lions are home in this one. They're favored by a full 4.5. You know what? Correction, 5.5. That is the number we'll go off of here. They are now favored by 5.5. And I like the Bears to cover this one. I think the Lions are going to win it, though. Give me the Lions at home to win a close game. Y'all remember last year's Thanksgiving, the Bears against the Lions team that was better, had the coordinators, and you're the Bears without Ben Johnson, and the Bears almost won that game. It was the disastrous fluke at the end with not using their timeouts and whatever the heck they were doing there, but that was a 3-point game, And I think this one could be a 3-point game as well. So 26-23, Lions get their first win of the season at home. And an important one at that. They got to win that game. I think the Lions could be fine. The roster is still elite. So, let's pump the brakes on them being a bad team or falling apart or whatever. Let's give them a few more weeks. I think they can string together some wins. Then we move into the 3:05 games, and boy, I like this one. This is going to be a fun one. You have the Broncos and the Colts, and I believe that says 2.5 Broncos. It is actually down to 1.5 Broncos. Correction, no, it's still 2.5. I've seen both, so you could go in between. Maybe we'll call it 2. And man, this is an interesting one. Broncos are still favored on the road. I think the Broncos are a better team maybe on paper, especially that defense. But the Colts looked great in week 1. I was saying all offseason, don't get too low in the Colts. I don't think they're I don't think they're going to make a run in the playoffs or anything like that. But this is a team that's good enough to beat any team any given Sunday, and that's without a doubt. They looked great in week 1, and I think they can continue to look great in week 2. The Broncos, that was a messy game from Bo Nix and the offense. Didn't love what I saw there. They started slow last year, though, so I'll still give them some time to kind of figure things out. But I think this is a great spot. Give me the Colts on an upset win, 24-23 at home against the Broncos. Maybe this is an overreaction from week 1. The Colts, they got a lot of turnovers, which led to the big win, and the Broncos were, rusty out the gate. So maybe this is just an overreaction pick, but I like the Colts. I think the Colts has a very good roster, and frankly, I think if you put a quarterback there that wasn't Daniel Jones coming into the year, they would have gotten a lot more look because the roster is not a bad roster. Could even be considered above average, depending on who you ask. So we'll see, but I'm going to take the Colts in a narrow home victory there. Then we move on to the Panthers and Cardinals in Arizona. Cardinals 1-0, Panthers 0-1. And, this was a tough one to pick. The Cardinals did not overly impress me on week 1. They handled the Saints. They could have won by more. They looked fine. They did what they were supposed to. They went on the road and got a win against an inferior opponent, but I really would have liked to see them kind of pour it on. I think the Saints are a team you can do that against. So a little disappointed there, but talk about disappointed. We're talking about the Panthers. What a mess. Everyone was hyping up Bryce Young. This is his coming out year after last year. He finished the year so well, and an absolute dud in week 1. Poor quarterback play. Panthers didn't look good, so I'm worried about them. This one, this is such a weird one because all logic says the Cardinals could win this one. Honestly, they could win it big, but I am going to go with the Cardinals to win, but I'm going to take the Panthers to keep it within the 6.5. I think the Panthers stay in this game. The Cardinals are scaring me because I think they might be the same Cardinals, a team that they're good, but they can't quite keep it and put it together every single week. I don't know. They're a good enough team, I think, especially on paper, to be beating the Saints by several scores, to be beating the Panthers by several scores, but they need to prove to me they can do that. So until then, giving the Cardinals to win this one, but it stays fairly close throughout the game. I think the Cardinals kind of control the game. You know the type of game I'm talking about, where a team's kind of ahead the whole time, so it's not like this thing's over or the other team's not coming back, but it stays within that score or two throughout the game. So we'll see. And then we move on to the main event of the evening, of the afternoon. It is the Eagles visiting the Chiefs. Eagles are favored by 1.5, and this is a tough one here. The Eagles coming off a kind of a shaky win. Their offense looked great in the first half, slowed down a bit in the second half, and then the defense did the opposite. It looked very questionable in the first half, really shined in the second half against the Cowboys. Chiefs, they had a shaky first half, much better second half, but it wasn't enough. The Chargers looked really good against them. Xavier Worthy, I'm not sure his status has been determined for week 2 yet. I thought I heard that it's probably in doubt, but still waiting to hear on that. And honestly, intuition or whatever, feels like Eagles in this one. However, man, I like the Chiefs to rebound. The Chiefs are coming off that tough Super Bowl loss to the Eagles. You know they're hungry to get this one. And on top of that, they started 0-1 with a loss to the Chargers. I think they come out hungry. I think this is one of those classic Chiefs games where it's kind of a little messy, it's close, maybe a little lower scoring, and the Chiefs sneak away with it in the end. Give me the Chiefs 23-20, but I do not feel great about it. But then we'll move on to the Sunday night football game. You have the Vikings hosting the Falcons. Vikings 4.5-point favorites at home. What a comeback on Monday Night Football. That was a lot of fun. I think McCarthy struggled to start out a bit, and I think the whole team struggled a little bit, especially offensively to start. And after the pick six, funny enough, is when it really felt like he started to get a bit more comfortable. Maybe the play calling trusted him a bit more as well. But the game flipped on its head, and they just came roaring back to win that game. You know, they were down 17-6, and in the blink of an eye, they were up 27-17. So, really like the resiliency. And this team, I said I'll talk about it later in the video, so now is the time. This Vikings roster is very, very good. They probably have a top 6, top 5 roster in the entire league. And if J.J. McCarthy ends up being a good quarterback, look out. Look out for this Vikings team. Give them time to put it together, but they could be very dangerous. The Falcons kind of played exactly how I thought. You know, they were a little more impressive than I thought to start the game, but it kind of weaned off at the end. Kind of exactly what I thought. They're kind of a middle-of-the-road team. They are very capable on offense and defense, but they're going to have their struggles also at times. And I think they're going to win some games. They're going to be close in just about every single game. I don't think they're getting blown out, but I just don't love them this year. I don't love them. The Bucs didn't even play that good, yet the Bucs came into their house and beat them. So give me the Vikings in this one, 28-20 at home on Sunday Night Football. I like them to win. I like them to cover. I really like the Vikings this year. I think they have a lot of good talent there. And then we move on to a Monday night doubleheader. This one's going to be fun. You started off with Bucs, Texans. That's a good one. I believe it was a shootout last time these two teams met, and it was also in Houston. I don't know if I'm expecting a shootout this time. I think the teams have changed a little since then. I think it'll be kind of middle of the road scoring-wise. The Texans did not impress me last week. The Rams really shut them down on offense. The Texans never entered the red zone. I mean, they entered the red zone on a catch that they fumbled, but they never finished a play and took a snap from the red zone the entire game, I believe. So you don't like that from the CJ Stroud-led Texans. The defense looked good. But the Rams started to kind of gain on them at the end. So I don't know. We'll see. The Bucs, they were shaky to start the game too. The defense was okay to start the game, shored up a bit at the end. The offense was real shaky to start. They couldn't get stuff going. They were getting pressure, but they came alive at the end, and I think the Bucs are going to be just fine. Texans are favored by 2.5 in this one at home. And, you know, I like the upset here. And I feel like a lot of people are going to agree with me on this, which scares me a little bit when a lot of people agree on an underdog, because if that were the case, why are they an underdog, you know? But give me the Bucs on the road to beat the Texans here, 24-20 on Monday Night Football. I like the Bucs this year. I don't love the Texans, so we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, give me the Bucs on the road. And then the final game of the week, Chargers at Raiders on Monday Night Football. 2 1-0 teams. Two teams that looked pretty good in week 1. The Chargers looked great. It was going air raid all over the Chiefs, and they beat the AFC champions with relative ease, it felt like. The Raiders, they started the game very well on offense, slowed down a bit at the end, but they looked good. They looked kind of like you would hope they would. They brought in Pete Carroll. They brought in Geno Smith. They're kind of stabilizing the team. They're no longer a doormat. They're like, we're going to win games. We're going to be competitive. You know, I don't see them getting blown out in many games. They're going to be in all of them. I think this is a very, very fun Monday night game. I think it's close. But I do have the Chargers winning and covering this one 27-23 on the road. I think the Chargers know that this is their year. I think week 1 was a great example. Chargers are known for losing close games late, so it's even scary to pick them in a close win like this. But they won a close one late against the Chiefs. And I think it's kind of the sign of things are changing. They're really trying to get into that contender form. And contenders go on the road in tough environments, which this will be Monday night home opener for the Raiders. That crowd's going to be going. Tough environment, good teams go on the road and they get wins, and I think they do it there. So that is my picks for week 2. Let me know what y'all think. Hoping for another positive week against the spread, and 11-5 straight up, pretty solid. Always room for improvement there. So we'll see how this week goes. I think this week has a lot of closer games than last week did. Not necessarily closer, but feels like there's a lot that could go either way. I'm looking through this, and there's a lot of games where the spread is 3.5 points or less. So that's a lot of fun. I love when that happens. It means we're going to have some close, fun football games this week. And it all starts Thursday with an absolute banger of a game between the Commanders and the Packers. Amazon Prime has been kicking off their Thursday night season with great games. Seems like every year now. So looking forward to it big time.